right? And I haven't been able to find it. So the last day and a half, no mountain. So I came to this conclusion. It's called Mount Pleasant because back in the 1700s, someone got mounted here and it was pleasant. That's the only thing I can come up with. Or I could get mounted at, no, I was kidding. So yeah, oh, it is clean. You know, where are the kids? No, this kid's not even paying attention, so it's cool. So I wanted to thank Gary Bird, who's shooting a video here, for picking me up. He picked me all the way up in Kalamazoo, no, Lansing. Lansing. He drove out in 12 midnight, and I was on the train, and man, it was a rough ride through the train. I mean, coming on there, it took like a day and a half, and I remember. But the cool thing was I got to sleep in one of those sleeping cars. Okay, but what was funny was this guy comes on the intercom. This is like 10 o'clock at night. I guess 10 o'clock on the train is quiet time. Because he comes on and he basically says, all right, everybody, passengers, this is quiet time. So those passengers on board, if you have a cell phone, turn it down. And if you have to talk, go on to another car or go somewhere where there's no other people because it's quiet time. So now it's quiet time. And I'm sitting there going, okay, that's cool. But he has more to say. And he's like, okay, it's quiet time, like I said. And again, if you have to talk on your cell phone, you have to go to another car because it's quiet time. It's quiet time. 2 seconds later, he says, it's quiet time, like I said. And he keeps going on. And for like 10 minutes, I'm like, when is quiet time? That means he has to shut up. But anyway, I finally get here. And I get here, and when I go home, I'm from the reservation in it's between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. I'm from a place called Santo Domingo, and we reverted back to our old name, which was Kiowa. And so people back home are going to wonder, well, what are the Saginaw Chippewa like out there in Minnesota? And you know, I'm going to sit down with the elders and with other people from my tribe and gather them around and say, all right, I'm going to tell you about the Saginaw Chippewa in Michigan. And they're going to sit around and I'm going to tell them stuff like, okay, the Saginaw Chippewa were poor, but now they have this casino. And so now they got all this money. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then I'm going to say, well, you know how all these other reservations out here, we have warriors riding on their horses? I'll be like, yeah. Well, out in the Saginaw Chippewa, they ride around in these golf carts all over the place. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm going to tell them, well, out in Saginaw, Chippewa, they're lazy. And they're like, why? Because they go to the bingo, but they're too lazy to get out of the car. And so when they get bingo, they just honk, and someone comes, and someone have all these wonderful stories about the Saginaw Chippewa that I'm going to be able to tell them out there. So anyway, when Gary Bird dropped me off, he was kind of disappointed because Glenna, who brought me out here, I guess I was supposed to stay at the Soaring Eagle. So we get to the Soaring Eagle, and he's like frustrated because they're like, we don't know anything about Ricardo Cate, and then maybe he's at the other casino. So they call the other casino. Yeah, he's over there, and I'm over there at the water park. And Gary's like, oh man, why did they put him in the water park? I said, what's the water park? And he says, well, it's a water park. You're going to have a bunch of kids running around, you know, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but it's 2 a.m, so maybe they're asleep. But they weren't. There's kids running around at 2 o'clock in the morning, up and down the hall, knocking on doors, and you know, and so I told them, you know, it's cool. It's cool. I'll stay here because you know, kids, right? They'll be single moms, right? Okay. And so he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. As long as you have a positive attitude. And so yeah, and so I'm staying over there, and so it's really cool. I mean, this morning was the first morning I woke up because the night before I went to the casino, and I go in at 7, and just a few minutes later, I go in at 7 p.m. and just a few minutes later, it's like 7 a.m. Right? You guys know how that goes. And so I didn't even sleep that night. So last night was my first night sleeping there. And so this morning I got up, I'm all refreshed, and I go, try to work out a little bit. And so I got tired of that. So I decided to go wash my clothes. So I go into the laundry room over there, and there's one washer and there's one dryer. And so I'm like trying to figure out, how does this work? Because, I can't find how to turn the thing on. And over here in this corner, there's this bike machine. Okay, they have a workout thing, but then they have this bike machine just sitting in the laundromat. So I just kind of sit in there and I get on and push some buttons and start pedaling. As soon as I start pedaling, the washer comes on. I'm like, whoa, and I stop, and then the washer goes off. And I pedal some more, it comes on. I'm like, okay, I get it. So I run upstairs and get my clothes, and I put them in, and I get on the bike thing, and I start pedaling, and the washer's going, and pretty soon it's a spin cycle, so I have to pedal faster, right, for the spin cycle. And so, but then I'm getting tired, and, I don't have enough energy because the dryer works the same way. So, anyway, my clothes are still wet, so, but, yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm watching TV, and one of the things I like about staying at hotels is that you get all these channels, right? And so, because back home we only get the 2 channels, and both are Mexican channels back in New Mexico. And so, anyway, I'm watching TV here, and I'm all caught up with the Kardashians. Just so they let you know, I watched it for 24 hours, and so Nokomis. You guys know what Nokomis is? Grandma, right? And over there at the casino, they have Nokomis set up in this corner of the lounge. I don't know if you guys have been there, but she's just sitting there, right? And it's every time I come out there, I think it's a real person, but it's a lifelike thingy of Nokomis, and she does storytelling, like on certain days. They have a certain time posted, but I come out and at 2 a.m. when I first got there, and I was looking, and I realized it wasn't a real person. But every time I walk by there, I swear she's following me with her eyes. And it really freaks me out. So I think it's a real person. I'm not sure, but tonight I'm going to find out. So, where? Oh, is that her? Oh, okay, with the glasses. The one in the thing isn't wearing glasses. But, so this morning I show up, and I show up for breakfast over there at that place, and they go, I'm here for breakfast, and they said, the first thing they asked me, do you have a reservation? I said, yes, but it's back in New Mexico. I know, that's kind of an old one, but, they're always, anyway. Okay. So I met someone from Oil City. Oil City. Anyone here from Oil City? Okay, good. Let's talk about people from Oil City. No, I met this guy from Oil City, and he's like kind of like a southern guy. He had this southern accent, and so he has his son come home from college, and so he's like... So he tells his son, so you must be pretty smart coming back from college, so why don't you speak some math to us? And the son goes, all right. And he says, pi r squared. And the old man knocks, hits him on the head and says, they ain't even teach you nothing because pies are round. Cornbread are squared. Anyway, I had to say something about, anyway. So the college around here is Central Michigan University. So I have a question. How do you get a Central Michigan University student or a graduate off your porch? You just pay him for the pizza. Okay. Okay. So So Glenna, she's out here somewhere. You guys know Glenna, and she brought me out here, and I'm really glad because I guess Gary found my site on Facebook, and he brought me out here, and he told Glenna about me, and so Glenna contacts me, and she goes, she sends me an email. No, well, first she sends me an email. I give her some information, then she calls me, right? And she calls me, and the first thing she says, Ricardo, I'm going to need a bio from you. And I was like, a bio, but I'm straight. And she goes, no, I mean a biography. I said, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. So I sent her a biography and everything, you know, and so they finally got me out here, and so I'm really, really glad to be out here. And so I was asking Gary about the tribe, just little things about the tribe, and so I asked him about diabetes because diabetes is really big where I come from. There's a lot of people who are diabetic. Any diabetics out here? All right, cool. All right. Hello, sweeties. Okay. No, I know. You wouldn't believe just looking at me but I was diagnosed in February of 2010 with diabetes. And I had all the symptoms because I was like, I had to look up the symptoms because I was very concerned. I was going to the bathroom a lot. And so I looked up the symptoms on the internet. And I was like, the first place I looked, because a friend told me you might have type 2 diabetes. So I look up the symptoms. And one of them was, you're going to go through the bathroom a lot. Okay, yeah, I did. Another symptom was, you're going to lose weight quickly. And I was like, oh, yes, I did. And so another one was, your urine's going to taste sweet. So I didn't know how to check that. So I asked my friend. No, I didn't. So I went to the clinic. That could have been a lot worse. So I went to the clinic, and I get checked, and doctor probes me and does this and that, and so I was kind of expecting the worst. I was hoping it wasn't diabetes, but he comes up to me and he says, Mr. Cate, you have diabetes. And I looked at him and I said, oh yeah, well you have cooties. And he looked at me, what was that about? I said, nothing. And he says, okay, I'm going to ask you a series of questions and you give me the best answer you can. And so I'm like, okay. And so the very next question was, does obesity run in your family? And I was like, no, nobody runs in my family. And he's like, why are you doing this? I was like, wow, what am I doing? And he's like, well, this is how I deal with it, right? And so with humor. And so, but inside I was taking it pretty bad. And so when I left, I actually went fell into a depression for a week because, this isn't good stuff to hear from your doctor. And so anyway, but while I was in there, I decided as a cartoonist, I had been drawing the cartoons for like 4 years. And I decided instead of looking at the negative, I decided to draw some cartoons about my experience as being a diabetic. And so for the next 2 weeks, I had 12 cartoons come out, a series of 12 about diabetes. And there's about 3 of them. And just so you know, I have a little display in here inside the museum of some of my artwork. And just like the MC, I didn't get his name, he said that I started drawing cartoons in 2003, 2007. And this October will be the 8th year. And I started drawing cartoons back in the 7th grade, but for some reason I just thought, I don't know too many native cartoonists, but why not? So I decided to get into the Santa Fe newspaper, and it wasn't easy. In fact, when I went in, I gave him this. I actually went in to the Santa Fe paper looking for a job as a reporter, and so So there was no job as a reporter. So I had my cartoons with me. So I gave them to the editor, and I said, "Look, I have these cartoons. Can I be on your comics page?" And she was like, "You could, but you would have to go to Florida because we get our metal plate from Florida, from a syndicate in Florida. They'll put you on the plate, then we run your cartoons here locally." And I didn't get that because I'm like standing right there. I'm in Santa Fe, and the newspaper comes from Santa Fe. And I said, "I'm right here. Here's my cartoon." And she goes, "Look, I just told you, you have to go to a syndicate in Florida, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "But I'm here. I don't want to go to Florida. I'm just right here. Come look at my cartoons, see my cartoons." And after like the fifth or sixth time, she was frustrated. And then she says, "Give me the cartoons." And so she looks and she starts laughing, and she starts calling other people in, sports writers, columnists, all kinds of people. So 5 minutes later, there's like 17, 20 people in there reading my cartoon, and they're all laughing. And so she says, "We got to have this." And so now they still have that metal plate, but where my cartoon goes, there's a blank spot. I don't know how they do it, but they put my cartoon on that thing. And so it's really cool to know that someone from this poor reservation that I come from, they go through all this trouble to put this cartoon in. And just 5 months ago, in the comics page, most of the readership was over 50. So they wanted to blow up the cartoons, the comics page, so people could read the thing. And so they decided they're going to get rid of 4 cartoons, 4 comics. And so they had a voting. And this is like 70,000 readers, okay? And so they had a voting, and what happened was my cartoon turned out to be the #1 cartoon. And it was actually 3 times more popular than the #2 cartoon, which was Peanuts. And that's when it hit me. That's when I knew that this was something really, really cool. But at the same time, I felt bad because I grew up idolizing Charles Schulz, right? And I felt kind of bad, but like a day later, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, okay, maybe he'd be actually proud of me, okay? Because I'm doing this, and I'm keeping up with, this thing that he's done, and he's inspired me, and I'm setting out to be the best cartoonist in the country. And if you see my cartoons, you'll know what I mean. And so people always come up to my booth when I'm selling my paintings at Indian Market in Santa Fe or wherever. And all these people come up and they go, one of the main questions they ask me, "So how do you come up with all these ideas every day?" Because it's a daily, 6 cartoons a week, right? It's a single panel. And they come up to me and they say, "How do you come up with all these ideas?" And I look at them and I go, "I do a lot of drugs." And they look at me and they go, "Oh, okay. That's nice." And so I tell them, I'm just kidding, okay? I'm only kidding. But there's this one lady I gotta tell you about. This old lady, she's like in her mid-90s or something, and she's coming over, with her head bobbing, and she's kind of shaking, and she's cute, but she's come up to me and she says, "I read your cartoon every morning. It's the first thing I read every morning. When I get up, I go outside, get the newspaper, come in, pour my coffee, and I turn right to the comics page and I read your paper, and you make my day." And I was like, "That's cool." So she walks off, and her husband, same age, he kind of comes in and he chimes in and he tells me, and my brother was older brother sitting next to me, helping me. And the guy, he pops his head in and he says, "You please my wife every morning." And my brother just started laughing, and I was like, he didn't mean it the way it sounded. So so I get all kinds of people, and but I draw my cartoons a lot from life experiences, right? Like my grandma. To tell you a little bit about where I come from, I'm a Pueblo Indian in New Mexico. There's 19 Pueblos in New Mexico, and ours is one of the biggest and probably the most conservative, because everybody in our Pueblo still speaks the language, even the little kids, and it's still very strong. We don't have a casino, but we have everything else. And so my grandma, she's been gone for like 9 years now, but she used to live in this adobe hut, you know, those Pueblo huts made of adobe mud, right? And so she used to live in this hut, and so so in the summertime, the inside gets so dry that sometimes the wall chips off, and the layer of plaster that's inside the wall, it starts to chip and fall. And so that's what happened in her little hut. And so there was a big old pile of these mud chips. And so what she did was she added some water to it, and she worked with it, and then all of a sudden she got this paste, this big old pile of paste. And so what she did was she replastered where it had fallen, right? Pretty amazing, right? And so she just used what was there, and she just put it back, basically. And so she stepped back, and now she had this big blank wall, and she didn't want to hang the blanket in front of it, this Indian blanket, because she figured that's what caused the mold to crack and stuff in the first place. So she had seen her neighbor, her fancy neighbor, she would call her, and she had these picture frames on her wall. So what Grandma wanted to do was to hang picture frames just like her neighbor. So my mom asked me if I could take Grandma to Walmart to have her go buy some picture frames. And so I take her to Walmart, walking around, and we find the picture frames section, and she buys about 30 of these frames, right? And she puts them in her cart, and she's walking through Walmart, and so I take her out to buy some other stuff, some cloth, and so I take her home, and I drop her off in the main village, and the main village is where all the houses are connected. She lives right in the center, and I drop her off there, and I take my mom's car back, and so my mom tells me, and we live on the outskirts, about a quarter of a mile away. And so my mom tells me, I just brought some wood. So if you can chop the wood, when you're done, run to your grandma's house and see if she needs help hanging the picture frames, because I got to go to town. So I chop the wood, and I run over to grandma's house to help her with the picture frames. And when I go in, grandma's sweeping, right? She's sweeping. And I come in, and Grandma, I'm here to help you with the picture frames. And she's like, she looks up, she says, oh, that's fine, but as you can see, I've already finished. And I look at the wall, and all the picture frames are up, right? So she tells me, come eat, come sit down and eat. And so I sit down at the table, and I'm facing the wall, and I sit down, there's a little small bowl of meat, and then she's sitting across from me, she's just watching me, she's, here, just eat this meat. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a small bowl of meat, and so they're like thin slices, so I'm eating, it's really greasy, and wow, man, that's cool. And she's just watching me eat. And so I go, man, this is really good. And I finished the whole bowl. And then she goes, did you like that? I said, yeah. And then she goes, do you want to know what it was? And I'm like thinking, no, but I say, yeah. And then she said, it was skunk. I was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, it was good. And then she was watching me, and she goes, that's good, you didn't make an ugly face. I said, why? Because if you make an ugly face, bad luck will always be with you. And because you didn't make an ugly face, because I told you it was skunk, then you're good to go, basically, she said. I said, okay, cool. So she goes back to sweeping, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this wall of the picture frames that she just bought. And I go, but Grandma, the wall looks very nice. And she stops sweeping, and she looks over, and she's looking at the wall, and she says, why, thank you. And I go, but Grandma, who are all those white people? And she looks at the pictures, and she goes, I don't know. And then I told her, Grandma, when you buy those picture frames, you're supposed to take out the displays and put your own pictures in there. So there were pictures of white weddings and white kids running through fields of flowers, and she just starts laughing, and it was really funny, because a lot of my humor comes from those moments when as natives, we don't readily grasp the concepts of the outside or dominant culture, right? And so that's where a lot of my humor comes from. And so, just so you know, that's how it happened. And so, which brings me to the story of when I was a kid. I had been growing up on the reservation all my life, and my dad, he passed away in 2001. He passed away at the age of 60, and he never really gave me much except this one watch that he gave me one day, and diabetes. He always gave me diabetes because growing up, I never really liked sweets or anything. I never ate candy. I didn't like that stuff. But so when I was diagnosed back in 2010, the doctor explains a lot of times it's hereditary. So I was like, thanks, Dad. But but he was cool. I mean, he would always mess with my head. Like when we were kids, when I was a kid, I'd be riding with him and he'll be driving and I'll go, Dad, can I turn on the radio? And he'll be like, no, don't turn on the radio. I don't have enough gas. He would say stuff like that. And then one time when he was telling me about the facts of life, he was telling me about, he says, I'm going to give you the facts about love, basically. And so I'm going to give you a formula, and the formula is, well, you like math, right? And I said, yeah, I like math. And so the formula of love has to do with math. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, So he basically said, so here's the formula. So he says, smart woman plus smart man equals romance. That's cool. And then he says, smart woman plus dumb man equals marriage. Okay. Smart man plus dumb woman equals affair. Okay. Dumb woman plus dumb man equals pregnancy. Okay. So he was that simple. He was like really, really cool. And so when he dropped me off, me and my brother off in high school, I was only 15. I was only 15 when he dropped me off at a high school. And but this high school was a dormitory where the native kids stayed at. I'm from New Mexico, and so he shipped me and my brother off to southern Colorado, where at this dormitory there was 200 Navajo, 200 Southern Ute, and 50 Apache kids, and there was only 5 of us Pueblos, me, my older brother, my younger brother, and 2 cousins. And so I don't know if it was his idea of a joke, but those 3 tribes that I just told you about, they were our natural enemies back in the day. And so they knew it, they remembered it, and so we were always fighting them off. And so when I first got there, my brother, he had already been there a year, and so he used to play football. And me, not knowing anything about football, I decided to join the team. And I didn't care for the fact that the coaches knew I didn't know anything about football. And so they would have me doing the stretches, and they would do the scrimmaging and practice, and I would just stand there on the side. And I was happy just standing on the side, not doing anything. I didn't care. I was dressed up. I was next to my brother, and that was cool. Now, when my dad dropped us off, he had given me this little Timex watch, like a $3 Timex watch. But I treasured it because it was the only thing he had ever given me. And so what I did was I didn't want to leave it in the locker room. And so what I did was I took the watch, and as soon as I put on my shoulder pads where you tie it right here, I put the watch on my shoulder pads. And then I put the jersey, the practice jersey, over it so you couldn't see it. And so I was like thinking, no one's going to hit me anyway, right? And so I'm standing there, and it's 4 weeks into the school year, and I hadn't talked to any of the white kids yet. I came straight from the reservation, and even though as we grew up, we went to the movies, we went to Pizza Hut, we went to restaurants, but it was always my dad that went to order the tickets or to order the pizza or whatever. We never really mingled with other people except, well, our teachers, okay? But we didn't talk. We talked a little bit of English, and they frowned upon us talking our language because they always thought we were talking about them, which we were. But it doesn't matter. So anyway, I had never talked to any of the white kids, and so for 4 weeks, this is 4 weeks into it, and I'm standing there at the football field in my jersey with my watch. Hadn't talked to any of the white kids, and we're taking a break, and here comes 6 white kids, and I'm standing right next to the water thingy, the water jug. And so they're coming up towards me, and I'm minding my own business, but I'm hearing them talking, and they're going, "Oh man, it's really hot today. I know. How much longer are you going to stay here? I don't know. How long have we been here? Oh, I don't know." And then someone says, "I wonder what time it is." And they're standing right there, and I go, "Oh, this is my chance to talk to these white kids." And so I turn around, 2:32. So I take a step closer, and I go, "It's 2:32." And they all turn, they go, "What? It's 2:32?" And they go, "How do you know that?" And one of the kids says, "Oh, look, because he's Indian. He can tell time by the sun." And they're all like, "Really? Really? Can you do that?" And I'm like, I had no choice but to say, "Yeah." And they walked away amazed, right? And I'm standing there, I'm going, "Oh, what have I done?" Right? Thinking to myself. And they go, and so fast forward to Monday. That was a Saturday. So fast forward to Monday after school. And I'm standing there, minding my own business, in my jersey, with the watch. I'm standing there, and here come these same white kids coming across the field with 6 other white kids. So there's 12 of them, and they're all pointing towards me. So I turn around, 4:37, 4:37. And they walk up to me and say, "Hey, Indian, what? What time is it now?" It's 4:37. And one of them had a watch, and he goes, "Oh my God, he's right on the dot. You were right. He can tell time by the sun." And they walked away amazed. And so for the whole season, they would always come up to me and ask me, and they never knew that I had that watch. And it often made me think about it, like telling this little white lie, but it was the little white lie that got my foot in the door, because later on, those 6 kids, the first 6 kids, turned out to be my best friends. And that's when I started learning English from them. That's why I hardly have an accent, even though Keres is my predominant language. And so that's basically how I've always been when it came to the cartoons, when it came to being in the Marine Corps, when it came to shooting film, which I do. And I think they have this up, and I have to braid my hair. So maybe you could watch this film, and then I'll continue. So I'm wondering, is anyone gonna, Glenna? If we can catch YouTube on this thing, I wanted to show you one of my films, because later on, after just before the cartoons, doing the cartoons, I became a GED instructor, which is pretty unusual because, well, anyway, there's no internet? Okay, they're going to check. And so I asked 4 of my students to see if we can make this film, and I'm hoping it pops up. But if it doesn't, my first job was teaching these city kids, trying to get them their GED. And so one of the assignments they had was to take some words, some vocabulary words, and put them into sentences. And I went back before I came out here. I thought this would be funny. So I went back to the files and got some of the, this was back in Albuquerque. And some of the inner city kids, the sentences that they wrote. And so the first one was disappointment. And this kid wrote, if my parole officer told me if I miss disappointment, I'm going to wind up back in the big house. Another kid wrote for clothes. He wrote, if I pay my alimony this month, I won't have any money for clothes. Okay. Catacomb. Don King was at the boxing match the other night. Man, somebody get that catacomb. You have to be old to remember who Don King was. Undermine. There's this really nice chick that's living under in the apartment under mine. Does it? Stain. My grandma asked if I was staying for dinner. Seldom. My cousin gave me 2 tickets to the Knicks game. So I went out and seldom. That was a stretch. Odyssey. I told my friend, man, you got to come out here. Man, you ought to come out. Wait. Man, come out. You ought to see this nice, sweet ride. Something like that. Okay. Income. I was making out with this chick and income her husband. Okay. I'm gonna talk to you later. Fortify. The tourist asked me how much for your necklace, and I said 45. I know. Anyway, they're still working on it. I don't know. I don't think there's any internet on this thing. So. Okay, anybody go to the Def Leppard concert last night? How was it? It was real good. Cool. I wanted to go, but I don't know. Okay, well, while they're fixing this, or I'm hoping they fix it, but I do a lot of speaking engagements now, like in New Mexico, and the weird thing is, just like with the watch thing, people expect us to act a certain way or to know certain things just because we're native. And so there's this one speaking engagement I did in Santa Fe, and I was asked just to speak about my cartoons, and they were going to be on the screen and all kinds of stuff. And there was 2 of us speakers, and the first guy was this guy from South Dakota. He was all decked out in his buckskin and stuff, and he had on this roach, and he was out there with his drum, singing this drum about brotherhood, about sharing, and about being native. And this crowd of 300 people, they're all collectors, and they were all really impressed, and they were like, oh man, and he was out there, and I was looking out, and this lady who was in charge of the whole thing, she comes out and she goes, she's asking someone, where's Ricardo? Where's Ricardo? And he says, he just got here. And she turns around, she sees me, and I'm like this. And she looks at me and says, where's your stuff? I said, what stuff? Your regalia, your uniform, your costume, your stuff. I said, I don't have any stuff. And she was like, and she looked really, really disappointed. And she goes, okay, do you speak your language? I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, okay, cool. Can you say something in your language to this crowd? And I was like, yeah, I can tell her where I'm from, my Indian name, and all kinds of stuff. And she goes, oh, cool, thank you. And then she says, can you sing in your language? And I'm like, looking at this guy, he's really going at it with his drum. And I said, yeah, I could do that. She goes, oh, thank you. Because, obviously she was disappointed because of the way I looked. And so I'm waiting there. And then, so I'm waiting for this guy to finish, and he does. And he comes out, he gets a standing ovation. And so I go, as first thing I asked him as he comes backstage, as they go out to introduce me, I said, hey, dude, can I borrow your drum? And he's like, absolutely not. And he walks off, and I'm like, what happened to brotherhood and sharing, right? So I'm like, oh man, what am I gonna do? And so I look, and down by the podium is this little box. And so I'm like, okay, I can use that box for a drum. And so I can do this. And so they introduce me, I come out, and people just like the lady, they're like, oh, where's his feathers? Where's his stuff? And I come out like this, and hey, I'm at our hope. And I just went on and on with my language talking. And then, and so I looked over, and the lady's in the backstage. She's like, right? I'm like, all right, cool. And so I reached down and I grabbed the box, and I told him, just like my brother, my Lakota brother from just out there, and I wanted to, I too have a song of my people that I wanted to sing to you guys. And so I start drumming out this beat, right? And I'm telling them about how my father taught me this song, and I'm going to teach my kids this song. And it's a song that I first heard when I was around 15 years old, and I'd like to sing it to you guys today. And some of you guys actually may know this song, I was telling them. And they were all looking at each other. Wow, that's cool. And so I was like, okay. Anyway, it's a song from my people. And so I like to, like I said, sing it to you right now. And it goes like this. Bloody, you're an old man, poor man, running in the streets. You're going to take on the world someday. You got mud on your face, big disgrace. And I looked over, and that lady in the backstage, she was like, oh. But everybody else, they loved it, right? But it was really cool. Just to take these expectations that everyone has and then just blow them out the door, because that's what my cartoons do. If you get a chance to see my cartoons, tomorrow at around 3 o'clock, I have a book signing, right? And so 1 o'clock, okay, I'm still going by Indian time. I'm going to show up at 3, but the book signing's at 1. No, I won't. I'll show up on time. And so, yeah, take a look at my book, take a look at my drawings, and you'll see what I mean. So were you able to get it up? So, okay. If you could type in Reservation Blues, we're going to take a quick break from this. And this is a movie that I shot with my 4 of my GED students. And I'm proud to say that every one of these GED students last year, every one of them got their college degree just this past May. So it was, in the 9 months I was teaching, 38 kids got their GED, and these 4 kids, they all got their degrees just this last May. And so you're going to see it come up. And we shot this movie in less than 2 hours because, this one. And so these guys had never been in front of a movie camera before, and so it's a simple concept, no dialogue. It's just some music to it, and then are you guys able to see it? Well, they'll be able to do this and make it bigger, but I think you guys will like this.
dash is dusty.
Okay, thank you. That was my first film of 3. And so, anyway, Glenna wanted me to announce the winner for the half, 1-for-1. What do you call this? Yeah, 50-50. The number is 786-5354. 786-5354. Oh my gosh, I have it. No. Okay. Oh, okay. There's the winner. All right. Just real quick. Just I'm really overwhelmed being here, and the amount of culture. I just visited this place in here, and so the museum, and it was really, really, really nice to see the history of this place. Okay, and what was really cool about it is that the history behind it, and then we have a history too, and just like out here in Santo Domingo, before I came out here, my mom decided she was going to bless me in our traditional way, and so I'm standing there, and it was like like around this time, a little bit later, the sun had just gone down, and I'm standing there. She's blessing me in the native way, right? And so I'm standing there, and my Uncle Hubert is sitting right there, and my Uncle Hubert, growing up, had never had anything nice or positive to say to me. But he's listening to what I'm telling my mom about me coming out here, and I tell my mom, and there's going to be these people that are going to listen to me, and she goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah," and I'm going all the way out to Michigan. She goes, "Really?" "Yeah," and I said, "How many people?" I said, "I don't know, but lots of people, and I'm going to visit these people from out there in Michigan." And she goes, "Wow," and then she says, mi patron, yinku." And what that translates to is, make sure you take a bath, right? And I'm like, "Okay, Mom," just like any other mom. So anyway, I'm standing there. She's blessing me, and Uncle Hubert gets up, and he comes over, and he pats me on the shoulder, and he says, "I'm very proud of you." And he walks off, and he walks outside to leave, and I'm standing there, and Mom finishes, blessing me, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that was really weird coming from Uncle Hubert." So my mom gives me a hug, and so I go outside. And as I go outside, and my ride's out to take me over to the train station, and I look to my left, to the west, and the sun had just gone down. And right outside my house, there's this big mound of dirt, and Hubert is standing on this mound of dirt, and he's doing this in the 4 directions, right? To the north, to the east, to the south, and then to the west. And then he brought his arm down. And I'm like watching him. It looked really cool, his silhouette, like in the, with the orange in the background. And he does it again to the north, to the east, to the south, and to the west. And by now I'm like freaking out. I'm like really, really touched, because first he tells me he's proud of me, and then he's doing this. And I'm like, wow, this is really, really cool. And so I go and I walk up to him, and I'm watching him, and he's still doing it. To the north, to the east, to the south, and to the west. And I'm standing there going, and then I let him finish, and finally I go, "Uncle Hubert, I'm really, really touched by this." And he goes, "What?" I said, "First you tell me you're proud of me, and now you're doing this special prayer for me." And he looks down, and he says, "Well, I'm not saying a special prayer. I'm trying to get a signal on my cell phone." Anyway, guys, thank you very much for having me out here. I really, really appreciate it. Come say hello. Come say hi. I'd love to come back someday, if I guess maybe be in the casino or whatever. I do better indoors. No, it's kidding. Yeah, I would love to come back and share some more stories, and just give me the chance. And I wanted to thank Gary for finding me on the internet, and then Glenna to bring me out here all the way to share in this celebration, because it's not over. It's just starting, right? And Friday, Saturday, you're going to find that I have no rhythm at all. I'll be out there, No, I do. I actually have some really good rhythm, as you saw, and I was singing and all that. Did I win? I didn't win nothing, right? No, okay. So come out, say hello. Come to my booth. I have a booth Friday, Saturday at the powwow with my paintings. And, let's sit down and visit. Tell me about yourself, a little bit about me. And so I want to get to know a lot more people. And I'll give you business cards. I only have a few. So if you're not going to the powwow, come and get my business cards. I only have like 15 or something. But if you can wait Friday, Saturday, get my business card, because it turns out that not only is my cartoon the #1 cartoon in Santa Fe, but I also have 1,400,000 followers on Facebook. And it's not just in this country. I have a lot of fans in Canada, France, Germany, Spain, and Japan. And this country, and it's only been in just this one paper. Can you imagine once I get syndicated? And that's going to happen in the next 2 months. And say hi to me while I still know you, little people. No, I was just kidding. Yeah. You got one fan in the Philippines. Yeah, I got one fan in the Philippines. His wife. I wouldn't tell that to the other people. I'm just kidding. Say hi to me. I'd love to get to know you. But thank you again for listening. Thank you very much.
Chimigwesh. Let's give it up for Ricardo Cate. And one of the things that he failed to mention on his trip here to the Saginaw Chippewa tribe, he has a lot more material for his cartoons. So, Ricardo Cate. All right. And remember, his book, Without Reservations, tomorrow, it's going to be a special collection showing of his cartoons and a book signing. And our very own Willie Johnson is going to be available along with Ricardo to go ahead and to show you that exhibit. We appreciate Willie being able to do that for us. And we also have the winners of our survey, and we would like to get George Hill and Taisha Patello over to our membership booth, and we have a couple special prizes for you. George Hill and Taisha Patello. At this time, I'd like to ask our Zebra Wing director to come on up on stage. This is a labor of love for Native Fest and all of those folks that you see in the orange shirts. Didn't they do a marvelous job, people? Shannon, your thoughts?
Okay. Well, again, we'd like to thank you all for coming out here. This is one of the events that we truly, truly love to provide for the community, because it leads up and sets a nice spirit and tone for the annual powwow weekend. And we know a lot of our relatives are coming home, so it's great that we can provide the sponsorships. We'd like to give a shout out to McGeezy again, as well as the Soaring Eagle Hotel and Water Park. Also, tribal housing. And then our major sponsor for this Native Fest is, of course, Wells Fargo. So let's give them all a round of applause, all those various sponsors and departments for assisting us and partnering with us year after year. This is our 10th year, so we're excited to provide you with another 11th year. And I know that when we get back to work next week, we'll already be talking about how we can put together a bigger and better Native Fest next year. So we're excited because we continue to try to add more elements, keep it fresher. And, I really have to commend the Zebra Wing Center staff, as well as our board of directors. There were many board of directors here this evening, and they always seem to keep us in line, keep us motivated, keep us so that we're constantly being innovative and creative. So, again, we'd like to thank you all. And before we give Obama P until next year, we'd like to acknowledge our MC, Mr. Joseph Samek. He's always here to support Zebra Wing, and we appreciate him so much because as a photojournalist, he loves to cover the Zebra Wing beat, so we can always count on him when we have major events or major news going on. Joseph is always here, so we want to miigwech him for being here with us this evening. So thank you again, and miigwech to each and every one of you who makes Native Fest possible. You bring your good spirits and your laughs and your kinship and your community and yourselves and your family. And we couldn't have Native Fest without all of you and all of your ideas and recommendations too. So we thank you for all of that. One last thing, tomorrow, Ricardo Cate will be providing a book signing from 1 to 3, and he'll be working with our own curator, Mr. William Johnson, and providing narrative and probably more jokes about the collection showing that's in the lobby right now. So join Ricardo and our curator, Willie, tomorrow from 1 to 3, get a Without Reservations book and get that signed up. So. All right, everyone, have a great powwow week. Welcome home if you're home, and have a great powwow weekend. Bama P and miigwech.
Oh, Chi miigwech, Shannon Martin, and I'd like to give one last shout out to one of our coordinators of Native Fest. I couldn't do it without her. Let's give a big hand to Glenna Genero. Chi miigwech. Appreciate all that support, and our friends from Everything Audio Visual. We're going to leave you with a song.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself.